The elderly man wandered through the crowded downtown plaza beneath the bright afternoon sun, wearing a wrinkled jacket, clutching an old leather wallet, and looking so hopelessly confused that hundreds of people walked past without slowing down. Only one young woman stopped to ask if he was all right. She bought him a bottle of water, sat beside him on a park bench, and patiently helped him remember where he had been trying to go. Less than an hour later, every giant digital billboard across the city flashed his photograph with an urgent announcement, and the woman nearly dropped her phone when she realized the quiet stranger she had comforted was the man everyone in the country had been desperately searching for. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing emotional stories that remind us one simple act of kindness can change countless lives. The young woman's name was Tessa Rowan. At 28 years old, she worked as a public librarian, earning far less money than many of her former classmates but finding purpose every day in helping children discover books and lonely seniors find companionship through reading clubs. Her life wasn't glamorous. She lived in a small apartment, drove an aging hatchback, and often worried about paying bills. Still, she believed every person deserved patience because no one truly knew the invisible battles another human being carried. That warm spring afternoon, Tessa had left the library during her lunch break to buy a sandwich from a nearby cafe. The city buzzed with office workers, tourists, musicians, and families enjoying the pleasant weather. Everyone seemed focused on reaching somewhere important. Near the central fountain, she noticed the elderly man standing perfectly still. His eyes searched every passing face with growing panic. People assumed he was homeless or simply waiting for someone. Tessa noticed something different. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't bothering anyone. He looked frightened. She gently approached and asked if he needed help. The man introduced himself as Graham Ellsworth, though he struggled to remember where he had intended to go. He apologized repeatedly, embarrassed by his own confusion. Tessa offered him water and suggested they sit in the shade while she tried helping him piece together the afternoon. Inside his wallet she found no cash, only a train ticket, a family photograph, and a folded note listing a phone number that appeared smudged beyond recognition. Graham smiled sadly while staring at the old photograph. He remembered everyone in the picture. He simply couldn't remember where they were now. Tessa felt her heart sink. She suspected he might be experiencing memory problems. Instead of rushing away, she cancelled her afternoon plans and remained beside him. They spoke about gardens, old trains, books, and music. Gradually Graham relaxed. He confessed that since losing his wife several years earlier, he occasionally became disoriented whenever he felt overwhelmed. He worried people would think he was becoming a burden. Tessa quietly assured him that asking for help never makes someone a burden. It simply reminds others they have an opportunity to be kind. While searching online for nearby support services, her phone suddenly vibrated with a breaking news alert. An urgent message announced that renowned philanthropist and retired entrepreneur Graham Ellsworth had disappeared earlier that afternoon after leaving a medical appointment. Every digital billboard across downtown immediately displayed his smiling portrait alongside a request asking anyone who recognized him to contact authorities. Tessa looked from her phone to the gentleman sitting quietly beside her. It was the same face. The same jacket. The same kind eyes. She had unknowingly spent the past hour comforting one of the country's most respected business leaders. Yet nothing about Graham's behavior had suggested wealth or importance. He had simply looked like a lonely human being needing compassion. Within minutes, emergency responders and Graham's family arrived. His daughter, Celeste, rushed forward with tears streaming down her face before embracing her father with overwhelming relief. She explained that Graham had recently been diagnosed with the early stages of dementia. Although physically healthy, unfamiliar situations occasionally left him confused. The family had searched frantically after he wandered away from the clinic. Celeste repeatedly thanked Tessa for staying. She admitted many people had probably recognized her father's public image. Few had chosen to stop. News outlets quickly learned the story. Reporters praised Tessa for helping a famous philanthropist. She politely corrected them. She hadn't helped because he was famous. She helped because he looked afraid. That distinction spread farther than the headlines themselves. When journalists later interviewed Graham after he recovered, he struggled to remember every detail of that afternoon. But one memory remained perfectly clear. He remembered someone treating him with dignity instead of pity. Weeks later, Graham invited Tessa to visit the charitable foundation he had established decades earlier with his late wife. While touring programs supporting literacy, elderly care, and public libraries, Graham smiled warmly. He admitted that even before memory difficulties began, he often worried whether the foundation still understood its original mission. After meeting Tessa, he no longer questioned it. Compassion remained alive. Inspired by her kindness, Graham announced a nationwide initiative funding memory-friendly public spaces, dementia awareness training, and expanded library outreach programs for isolated seniors. Hundreds of communities benefited. Thousands of families found new support. Tessa never asked for recognition. She continued working at her library exactly as before. One afternoon, months later, an elderly visitor approached her reading club carrying a familiar smile. It was Graham. This time accompanied by family members. His memory had faded further, yet he immediately recognized the library. More importantly, he remembered one feeling. Safety. He thanked Tessa for giving him that gift on the day he needed it most. Before leaving, Graham quietly donated thousands of books to children's libraries across the region. Inside each donated book rested a simple message. Always choose kindness before judgment. You never know whose life you're holding together. Years passed. The city eventually dedicated a peaceful reading garden beside the central library. Children laughed beneath flowering trees while grandparents read stories on nearby benches. A bronze plaque carried one sentence. Great kindness often begins with one person willing to stop walking. No names appeared beneath the inscription. Neither Tessa nor Graham wanted attention. The message mattered far more than the people behind it. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever helped someone without realizing how deeply your kindness would impact their life? Leave a meaningful comment below because your experience may inspire someone else to choose compassion today. As warm afternoon sunlight filled the reading garden, Tessa watched children gather around volunteers sharing stories beneath the trees while Graham smiled proudly from a nearby bench beside his family. His memory no longer held every business achievement or every public honor, but it still held the feeling of being treated with patience when he felt completely lost. In the end, that became his greatest treasure. Tessa realized the most extraordinary moments rarely begin with extraordinary people. They begin when ordinary people refuse to ignore another human being in need. One act of kindness had rescued more than a lost man. It reminded an entire city that compassion remains the greatest legacy anyone can leave behind. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that sometimes the face we choose not to ignore today becomes the reason someone believes in humanity again tomorrow.